Joining me is Dan Rizzuto. He is a multi-talented individual. He's a filmmaker, he's a stunt performer, he's an actor, he's a stunt coordinator, and he's a former professional fighter. Is there more? Welcome to the show, Dan.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's good to
Yeah,
be here.
so you are a Renaissance man. What you don't do, um,
Uh, I think I just have a drive that's always been inside. And, during my early years, it was just misdirected and not knowing where to grasp and put it. And once I found the areas that really moved me, I guess, I just full steam ahead.
yes, well, it's amazing. And how much of your fighting career do you owe it to where you are now in the film industry?
Um, well, I mean, I think I owe everything to it, but more than just the physical aspects of helping me get into the industry, the mental preparation. And I was really lucky to have the opportunities to train under the people that have been the most incredible guiding role models, examples for my life that I mean, I can't, there's no value that I could put on it. I'm just so grateful that I consider myself extremely lucky, which is why I don't want to waste any opportunity that comes my way.
Well, you certainly have a passion for it, but it's hard work. And you mentioned the word drive. You have such a drive, and it started in from 1998 is when it.
Yeah, I mean, I started training when I was little. I fell in love with it, and at that point, I actually thought the bodyguarding route is what I wanted to do. So I went to school for that and was under some amazing people that gave me great opportunities there again. And then my first, I guess, really big break in celebrity bodyguarding was on the set of Dark Angel 2, where I was running a team of 4 people guarding Jessica Alba. And then I just met a fellow by the name of Mike Mitchell, who was second unit directing and the stunt coordinator on that show. And one thing led to another. And all of a sudden I was like, you know what? I love bodyguarding, but this is just my passion. And I was still fighting at the time. So it was a little bit of a conflict. And I had the opportunity to fight in the UFC, but I turned that down because while I was bodyguarding, I was just making so much more money. And back then the UFC was dying and going under, and nobody thought it was going to do what it was. And
Yeah.
just made the decision financially that it was best to stick with what I was doing, because I had no money ever. Growing up, we were poor, like really poor. So having the opportunity of having money come in like that was I couldn't say no to it. But then it led to meeting people in the film industry and progressing a career there. So I guess it was the right choice.
Yes, absolutely. So for fighting, like why professional fighting? Like what was the.
Well, I think, I mean, I wasn't the best behaved kid. I think misguided, just being, a lot of it was just misunderstood. We didn't have great communication in our family. And when you're around, our neighborhood, which was, the broke neighborhood with every other broke kid, and then you see what other kids have and what they experience, you get this bitterness and this hate. But it's misguided because we don't understand it. There was no communication of, work hard and you can achieve it, and we're all dealt different cards, but it doesn't make you less of a person. That was never explained to us, so we rebelled. There was no other way to get it out. And I started kickboxing and karate and boxing, and it was just such a fantastic outlet, and it was something natural to me. And after every training session, even as a kid, my views on life were different. And it spoke to me in a way that nothing ever had. And I'm so grateful for it, because, I have friends that I grew up with that were my best friends in the world that are in jail for life now for murder and crimes. And it's just, fighting kept me on a path that taught me my morals and my outlook. And it gave me a confidence that I honestly think few things do. And when you're fighting and you're in there alone, there's nobody else there. And you literally have to go to the depths of who you are. Because what a lot of people that don't fight understand is it's not your opponent. It's inside. You battle yourself. You battle, you're tired and you're hurt. Do you want to give up? Do you keep pushing forward? It's not about the opponent. It's not hate. It's you battle and grow as a human being.
Yes, yes. And, I want to congratulate you on the movie, Torn, Dark
Thank you.
Bullets, and amazing. You produced it, directed it, and screenplay. It's your screenplay, right?
Yeah, I co-wrote it and co-produced it and directed it.
It's,
And it's
it's so
honestly,
powerful.
it's my single biggest personal achievement. Like that really, it's the one achievement in life that I'm the happiest about.
Tell us the feedback. I mean, what is the message you want people to
The feedback has been, for the most part, absolutely tremendous. We obviously expected some negativity because it's not a Hollywood feel good movie. It's really blunt and gritty and raw. But the whole point of it is to create conversations. One thing I didn't expect was to get I get hang up phone calls a lot. I get phone calls and people just say some horrible stuff and then hang up. And I'm like, how do you even get my number? And then I realize, oh, it's on IMDb. And so, but I did take it personal and I was getting angry at it for the first little bit, but then I realized, no, this is the whole point, was to create conversation. And if they're taking the time to track down my number and call me and say those things, obviously something hit them about it. It triggered something inside of them. So I'm coming to a better understanding now. But, the whole purpose of the film was to create dialogue. I'm not happy with what's out there regarding the topic and how safe it is. We've had a studio rep, and I can't say what studio because I signed an NDA, but they wanted the script, but they changed it. And when we got the rewrites of it, I was like, oh, hell no. They just made it safe. They took out everything that was real and raw and rugged about it. And that's not the point. So that's when we decided, you know what? This isn't going to get made by the studio. We have to make it as an independent if we want to keep it the same, which anybody who's in the film industry, I mean, how it's just difficult. Fundraising and producing and getting people aboard but man, it was so worth the sleepless nights and the stress.
Wow, I can't even imagine. And the characters, how did you find the actors? How?
Well, a couple of them, like Dexter, who plays Dom, the son, and Big Sleeps, who plays the father. I mean, I've been friends with them since I was a kid. So that's kind of my level of understanding as far as racism goes. I obviously can never experience racism in the manner in which they have, but I've been in the environment so many times and seen how unfair it is, like being pulled over and nobody cares about me, but there's guns drawn on them, or walking into shopping centers when we were kids and we didn't know how serious it was back then. It was more of a joke, but walking in, they're like, we're going to go this way, you go this way, watch what happens. And I go this way and they go this way, and all the security follows them. And I'm just sitting there like nobody's even looking at me, even though I'm dressed the same, acting the same. So I saw racism from a different light, and I just needed to speak about it. Yes. Because the biggest thing that I can say that I hope really people understand and jump aboard on, racism is a white problem. It's not a black problem. It's a white problem. And for some reason, people don't get it. If you're Asian or you're African American or whatever your race is that's non-white, you're dealing with it, but it's not stemming from you. It's a white problem. And until everybody jumps aboard and realizes there's no reason to hate, we have to stop it. There's no understanding of it. It's a learned behavior. It's a taught behavior. Unless we speak about it, what's ever going to change? How do you change the next generation when you've got one family's raising them to be like, this is the world you live in, this is what you have to expect. And then you've got other families that either just ignore it or don't deal with the issue because they've never experienced it or been in the environment of it. Or you have the families that are continuing the hate cycle. And that's why the movie it's not one-sided. We're not pointing fingers. It's a discussion. Like the character Pierce, the officer, what he's saying, he believes. What the family's saying, they believe. And there's different levels of racism in it. There's subtle racism, there's covert racism, there's just blunt racism, so it wanted to hit every level of it. So people would be like in their chairs going, oh shit, I mean, I say that, looking around, meaning like maybe they don't even think it's racist, but then there's some really deep rooted covert racism within it that really is more of, it's environmentally learned. If we just input anything in life, but don't process it, we're not in control of the reaction of it. So it's why it's so important to understand conscious and subconscious. I read a book, I don't know, 20 years ago called The Power of the Subconscious Mind. And I think when I read it, it was like 20 years old, but it's such a good book. And it basically stated that the conscious and the subconscious mind, we have to be very careful consciously what we input, because subconsciously your body wants to do whatever it thinks you want it to do. It doesn't know right from wrong. It's like a big giant thing of clay, and every time you have a thought, it just imprints it, and you're going to have a reaction that maybe you think you didn't even want. People that, I hate my life, I wish I would die, it's terrible, and all of a sudden you have cancer. Like, you've seen videos, was really what shocked me in the book that talked about was people that were just standing on a corner, and for some reason, just subconsciously, they just stepped out and got hit by a car. And people are like, well, what happened? My buddy wasn't suicidal. He wasn't. It was just weird. And maybe something deep rooted subconscious, that's our guiding force. We can't make every single conscious decision in a day or we'd be dead. Think about your body, how much it processes subconsciously. Heart's got to beat, lungs got to take in oxygen. All these processes are happening subconsciously. So we need to understand the thoughts and how powerful they are. And the best example of this, and it always makes me laugh, was I like going to seminars, like, and anybody that's got, just call them self-helps, call just anything knowledge-wise. But I was there and this woman was talking about the conscious and subconscious mind, and I was blown away by it. And there was this kid, maybe, I don't know, 14, 15, kind of giggling, and the woman's like, she goes, do you not believe that your thoughts can transform your body? And the kid's kind of, just being a typical teenager, like, nah, whatever. And he goes, can I ask you something? And then she looks at the mom and goes, can I ask him something? And mom's like, yeah, of course. And she goes, well, you're in school, yeah? There's some pretty girls there. Yep. So when you think about those pretty girls, does anything in your body change? Does something happen maybe? And the kid got all embarrassed and was like, oh, it was like, all of a sudden the kid's like focused, done the whole time, just paid attention. Because it's true. If you can have a thought, and that's probably the easiest way to see, like a physical change in the body through a thought. Well, crap. If you can think that and you're getting a physical reaction in your body, what else is happening with every thought that comes in your mind? And it floored me. I was blown away. I was already convinced. And now all of a sudden I was like, oh, give me more, give me more, give me more. So that's the kind of thing that I'm obsessed with learning. And I want to, it allows me within this industry to give back, but not feel selfish. If I'm in the industry living my dreams and my goals, which are material and physical goals, really. I mean, that's for everybody, they are. I got to get a house. I want to have a car. I want to have this, that. But how do I do that by still giving back? And that's, the power of the subconscious mind. I mean, the book is amazing. I tell everybody to read it.
Wonderful, Dan. And people want to see the film, they can go to Amazon Prime, right?
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime. And, it's, the one thing that's bothering me about it right now is that the mainstream media, they don't want to touch it. We're getting a lot of attention from call it more real media, but the mainstream media, it's not your feel good Hollywood film. It's a very sensitive topic and subject, and they don't
And
want to touch it.
I congratulate you for doing this. You know, it's in your being, it's who you are, and it's something that you want to do all this time. I think it's a, you know, matter of time. Perhaps the mainstream media will, you know, that's my opinion.
Well, I mean, we're still making as much noise as we can, and especially what's going on right now in the States.
Yes.
That's just, you know,
Yes.
and they say, well, it's happening now. And I'm like, well, it's always happening. We're just more privy to it now because of cell phones and YouTube and media. And, you know, it's always been happening. It's not new. It's more in your face. And it's the, you know, we get, oh, it's the right time to release it. Well, I mean, it's always the right time to release these kind of things, but especially what's happening now. There's a lot of people that have given the most heartfelt feedback, and that's what I want. I want people to realize it is happening. It does happen. We're not pointing fingers at anybody, which is why the dialogue, we spent so much time researching and making sure the dialogue was sharp. Whereas, you know, if someone can say, well, you're pointing fingers at the white cop. And he said, I mean, there's a direct line in there from Dom when he's talking with Pierce, the officer, and he says, I don't hate all white cops, just corrupt, power tripping ones like you. We're not pointing fingers. He's saying, the officer is saying what he truly feels. And there's never been a film with that perspective. So this film got made because people believed in it. You know, we had a really small budget on it, which was the funding came from individuals, people I know, people I work with. And the cinematography for that budget level, people don't even believe what we made it for because of how it looks. And that's because of our DOP and cinematographer, Peter Stathis, who's just mind-blowing. He read the script and loved it and wanted to be involved in it. And, you know, the cameras we were using and the lenses we were using, I could have never afforded. I mean, they're blockbuster packages of lighting and cameras and stuff. And it was gifted to us, you know, and he wasn't sitting in the chair the whole time just telling people what to do. He was running a camera. And we had an amazing B camera operator, Charlie, who was just, again, you know, it was like, bro, I can't pay you what you're worth, you know? And then that goes across the board, like from the crew to the cast. I mean, the cast is making 20% of what they should have, you know, and but it was passion. People just jumped aboard because of the message. And if I didn't have the cast that I had to work with, this movie wouldn't have been done. Because anybody who understands filmmaking, this movie was shot in 15 days. And the ending, you know, was cut short because we already got a 2-hour extension on our permit. It was midnight on a Friday, and it was like, the officer was like, you can't go past midnight. We're like, we still have like 3 scenes to shoot. So we're like rewriting and setting stuff up to shoot just to get an ending. So the movie's there. And, you know, the cast would do, and I'm not joking you, they're doing like 8, 9, 10 pages of dialogue a day. And one thing that I wanted to do was, even though they're giving their heart and their soul and they're exhausting themselves, I wanted to break them down more. So rather than calling cut and then, you know, everybody sets up and get ready again, I'd say, okay, let's go again. And that's not like 2 or 3 lines. That's like 5 pages. And say, okay, let's go again. Okay, good. Okay, yeah, let's reset. Let's go again. And you could see their exhaustion and pushing it, but it brought out. You can't do that with average actors. You just can't. Like 9 pages of heavy dialogue a day with tears and emotion. The universe put this together because this wasn't my doing. I'm telling you, like I'm so grateful for their ability. And what I really want is for the world to see what Canadian actors can bring to the table. Because if this was an American project that was brought here, these guys wouldn't have got the roles. They wouldn't have been given the opportunity. And that's why when I tell people, I said, don't watch it for, car crashes and explosions. It's not that kind of movie. This is the kind of movie that if you leave the room for 2 minutes, you got to rewind it and pick it up of where you lost. Because, that's why it's kind of beginning. Okay, we get it. Let's get into the house, because that's the core of the movie, is the dialogue, and it's tough having 5 actors in a house, basically in 1 or 2 rooms for the bigger part of the movie, to still keep the audience engaged. And writing it and sitting there and trying to bring out emotion is one thing. I'm not the one crying on camera, and you're not watching me on camera. You're watching them and their performances. It's their performances that are creating emotion inside of you. And that is like, I hope every producer on the planet opens up their eyes and like give Canada a chance, because this is the level of acting that we have here.
Wonderful, Dan. And Dan, I want to thank you for coming on the show. And is there anything you'd like to add?
Really, just anybody thinking about creating, producing, writing, just go for it. Don't let anybody hold you back, because in reality, anybody that doesn't have your back, that's trying to hold you back, that's something inside of them. They don't want to see you succeed, maybe because they're more worried about, who outshines who, or they really wanted to do it, but they're just lazy and don't want to do it. Because, in this industry, and not just in Canada, but in the industry, and in most industries, is people talk, but doing it's just, the percentage is lower. It's just way easier to talk and do. I'm going to do a project. Just do it. People are going to hold you back. People are going to try to get in your way and obstacles, but that's all they are. Life is an obstacle. Just go forward, walk through it. Believe me, if you're willing to give up, the people in your life that don't support you, doesn't mean you have to hate them, doesn't mean you can't be friends with them. Just know your boundaries with them. The right people will come right in front of you, and you will be so grateful. It's like a relationship. You're like, oh, I can't believe I broke up. It's terrible. Yeah, it's a hard experience. But if you give in and you go back, it's one thing. Eventually, you go on and you meet that person, and you're like, oh, man, I'm so glad I didn't give up, because you're just feeling a whole new energy of life inside of you, because you were brave enough to go through that transitional period, because we grow in transition. We grow in times of pain. Nobody's like, I had the best day in the world, I'm going home to cry and I'm going to reflect. No, you're like, death in the family, an ending of a relationship, something happened. You go home and you reflect and you grow as a person. Believe in it. Just go. People are there. Send me an email. I don't know how I can help or what advice I have, but I've got contacts. I've been in the industry for over 20 years. I'll help. Just send me an email.
Thank you, Dan. And I really appreciate your time. And people want to follow you, they can go to your social media, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I would like you to come back in studio.
I'd love to. It would be awesome.
It was a pleasure. Thank
you.
Okay.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye.